if a contractor were to screw this up, because people find ways, including myself, to mess up just about anything, how would somebody mess either of these products up? Like, what are the most common pitfalls a guy would get into with both Mega One and Traffic?
Honestly, Mega One, I mean, with a single component, there's not really a whole lot of outside of not shaking it. Kind of like if it's one of the satin or extra matte, if you don't shake it, obviously that can lead to being, a kind of a gradient of sheen as you go across, because all of the flattening agents are sitting on the bottom. So as you get to the bottom of the bottle, that's going to be something that you can do. Honestly,
just real quick, if that happens to a guy, I mean, the solution to that is screen and recoat.
Screen and recoat, yeah. Because, I mean, a large portion of what we see in a finish is going to be that top coat.
Right.
And so they would want to hit the area, braid it, basically get it down, and then coat over top of it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
And then Traffic HD, just being a 2-component, we'll either have calls of like somebody forgot to put in the hardener. And so they just coated the floor. They thought that somebody, I thought person A was going to do it. And so I just started coating. And then I realized we have this whole extra bottle of hardener. And at that point, it's to just let it fully dry out and then go and screen and recoat it. So it's definitely salvageable. It's not a full resand or anything like that. And then, or putting in the hardener and then walking away and forgetting to shake it kind of a thing. That can always cause kind of issues just because you have a large concentration of hardener. But outside of that, I mean, they're pretty user-friendly.
Okay, awesome. Well, user-friendliness is good. I mean, when guys get to the last part of the floor, all the work that's gone into the floor up until that point, they don't want to throw in the dumpster and start all over again. So
correct, yeah.
Good morning to everybody, or late morning if you're here in Denver. This is Pro Shop Talk with the Masters Craft. This is a series where we just talk to a few of our vendor partners and highlight some of the products that they have and that they make available to the wood flooring world, to you wood flooring installers and craftsmen out there in the field. So today we're talking with Bona, and we've got Brad West. He's the Midwest Territory Manager for Bona. And we'll be talking today about a couple different finished products that they have. So, good morning, Brad. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been with Bona for almost 5 years now. So I started out in the tech and training department, answering phone calls with contractors, working in our schools. And then about a year after starting there, I then transitioned over to the territory position. So I've been based out of KC. And then cover Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas.
Awesome. Great. And give us I'm sure Bona is a huge name in the wood flooring world, so probably not a lot of guys know this, but give us a quick few-second summary of who Bona is and what you guys do.
We are a worldwide company with one of our headquarters being here based in actually in Denver with you. We have everything from the initial sanding with the machines and abrasives to stains, finishes, and then even floor care to support, the homeowners after you're finished with the job. And then it actually pushes people back because it recommends that they reach out and, find out about Bona stains and finishes so that it kind of keeps the cycle going.
Great. Yeah. You guys are definitely probably one of the better known companies in the wood flooring world. So, well, great. What products are you wanting to talk about today?
I mean, with that whole multitude of stuff, we probably could have talked about anything, but today I kind of chose to talk about two of our mainline finishes, Mega One and Traffic HD.
Okay, great. So Mega and Traffic have both obviously been in the wood flooring world for a long time. I remember their name back when I was in high school, and I remember handing boxes of old school Traffic to guys back then, and Mega as well. So those have definitely been around the block for a while. And I guess just for the average guy, explain kind of what Mega One is, what Traffic HD is, as different from what's always been out there.
Absolutely. So yeah, like both Mega and Traffic kind of received upgrades. Obviously Traffic HD kind of came around first before that. So when we're talking traffic to traffic HD, we're talking lower VOCs, which is always great if you have those customers that are VOC sensitive. It's a completely different platform. It Green Guard Gold certified, which back in the day used to be like for children's in schools. So it's extremely safe for the homeowners. It's actually even a food safe product once it's fully cured, which is just one of those extra tidbits that you can throw out for homeowners. If you're saying, hey, if anything spills on the floor, like it's not gonna transfer chemicals or anything like that. It actually is a much more durable product comparatively. It's about 10 to 15% more durable than original Traffic. Better flow and leveling compared to Traffic itself, which, I mean, Traffic was an amazing product already. So for us to kind of take that and then take it to the next step, Traffic HD is a fantastic 2-component.
Awesome. So that's Traffic HD. How about Mega One?
So Mega One came about because customers really, even still to this day, even with Mega One being out, Mega is a very popular product, and it's just because it's a very familiar product. Guys have been using it for years and years and years. But when it came to Mega and us wanting to do an upgrade, we realized that we definitely needed it to be a clear finish. Mega's great, but then if you get on these pastel floors and it's got a little bit of that wood tone to it, which you don't normally see if you're staining anything wood colored, you would never even notice that it was there. But it's when you get on top of those grays and whites and then you put it down and you're like, why does it look dingy? Well, That's because of that wood color in it. So Mega One came about because of us wanting to make sure that we had a clear single component. And with all of that newer technology, Mega was created back in the 1990s. And here we are, 20 years later, creating Mega One. It's just a far superior single component compared to Mega. Better abradability, better build, easier to work with. As easy as Mega is to work with, Mega One's even easier.
Gotcha. So is that is Mega One kind of a replacement for Mega, or is it just another tool for the contractor to put in their bucket?
I mean, I think all of us kind of, whether it's at distribution or whether it's at, Bona, we kind of all like placed our bets on what we thought was going to happen when Mega One came out. I mean, when we released Traffic HD, we kind of expected everybody to just transition to it. And both of them are still very popular and still, extremely, functional in their own right. I don't know that we were ever looking to completely replace Mega with Mega One, but I do think that it does provide a lot of benefits that guys who are using Mega right now, if they haven't tried it, if they haven't stepped up to at least give it a shot and see whether or not they are willing to use it, I mean, it's definitely something to take a shot at. It's a fantastic product.
Sure. Yeah. So for the Mega One, what problems does that solve for the contractor? I know you've talked a little bit about it just being clear. Obviously, people ask for a white floor. They ask for a gray floor. They don't want any ambering. It's probably like the number one question related to water-based that we would get at the pro shop counter. Guys would come up and say, hey, is this going to be yellow?
Yeah.
So that's obviously one big problem you guys are trying to solve with that. Are there any other problems you're solving for the contractor when you roll out Mega One?
Absolutely. I mean, with a single component, there's no waste. I mean, that's always the biggest thing, and that's always been kind of the setback when it comes to any kind of a 2-component like Traffic HD is when you get down to that final coat, you're doing everything and anything that you can to kind of save yourself from, tossing away $20-$30 depending on, how much you got left over.
Sure.
So you always want to, mix the right ratio and everything like that. Well, with the single component, you don't need to. You finish up on job A, drive over to job B, and now that's your first coat instead of your final coat. So that's definitely one of those huge features that came with it. And then I kind of touched on just the abradability, the ability to get it to powder without having to sit on it for 15-20 minutes and really healing in your buffer to try and get some scratches in there so that you feel comfortable when you put on that next coat that it's actually going to adhere. With Mega One, it's meant to abrade very quickly to get that powder to that powder point very quickly so that you guys aren't spending a lot of time on it. You're not worried about, hey, if I've got my stain down and then I've got my seal coat or my first coat of finish, I'm not going to run through that and burn through and hit the stain. So that's definitely one of the nice points about Mega One is just how easy it does powder up.
Gotcha. So I guess going along with that, obviously we've got everywhere from Denver to Houston to New York to Los Angeles, potential for guys to be watching, but like what would be a rough dry time that you'd have before you'd be able to powder Mega One?
I mean, we always will recommend, for the entire country, we're always going to say 2 to 3 hours, but it's definitely a, area dependent. If you have good circulation and, low humidity, like out in Denver, you might be able to get on it in 45 minutes. And the best thing I always recommend to guys is take a moisture reading before you, put down your finish. And then after about 30, 45 minutes, once it's actually flashed over, that's when if you're really needing to get on that job as soon as possible, start taking some moisture readings in the areas that you did before. If you're within a percentage point of where you started, you're good to go.
Gotcha.
Because that means, 99% of that water evaporated out. And so that's what's going to really cause it to kind of gum up if you get on it too fast or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay. And then in terms of where you would place that in your system, like how's a guy going to typically use that? Is he going to coat that directly over stain? Do you recommend going over a sealer? Do you recommend just coating with Mega One? Can you put other finishes on top, underneath? Like how's a guy going to use that Mega One?
Absolutely. So, any stain that functions like as a sealer, kind of like ours do, you don't necessarily need to throw a sealer on top. Me personally, I always like to have a sealer on because I feel like it kind of adds that build layer that a lot of the homeowners that are coming from like an oil poly and they're moving to water-based for their first time, sometimes water-based can kind of look a little bit thin to those homeowners. And so by adding that seal coat, it kind of raises the finish up off the floor, gives it a little bit more depth. And I honestly think sealers on top of stains kind of add a little bit of a luster to the stain. And so in my personal opinion, I like to have that seal coat underneath it. But guys can put, Mega One or Traffic HD directly on those stains that do function as sealers. And so they would put down Mega One. And honestly, Mega One holds up to residential traffic fantastically. If you have those areas that the customers like, I've got little kids, I've got dogs, I'm really worried about scratches, that's what you can always upgrade to the Traffic HD. And so you could do a Mega One coat, let that dry, come in the next day, quickly abrade, and then throw your Traffic HD on top. You can do Traffic HD all the way through, or you could do Mega One all the way through.
Gotcha. So then would you recommend like a seal coat plus 2 coats of finish on top is probably minimum for what you guys would want to see?
Yeah, and you always want to, as the contractor, you always want to provide the best floor that you can. By providing 2 layers of a finish, which actually has a durability to it, you're giving them at least if they wait 10, 15 years to recoat their floor, at least there's another layer below that protecting the floor. If you only put on 1 coat of finish, as soon as you wear through that, it's very quickly that you're down into raw wood, and then it becomes, instead of a recoat, it's a resand. So.
Gotcha. Yep. Awesome. Well, so now I want to move over and talk just a little bit about Traffic HD. So is there anything else you wanted to highlight about Mega One first?
5-day cure time, which is definitely a lot faster than what we used to quote all of our single components. And actually all of our finishes, we used to say 7 days. And then we're like, okay, wait, let's look into this and make sure that we're actually quoting it right. And it actually comes out to the Mega families are down to 5 days and the Traffic families are down to 3.
Okay. Gotcha. So it's 5-day cure time. What would you recommend? Like if a homeowner says, hey, when can I get back on my floor? Are you going to like real solidly say 5 days? Are you going to say you can walk on it in socks in X amount of hours? Like what would you practically recommend?
So socks is always going to be that 3 to 4 hours. I mean, think about it. We walk on the finish 2 to 3 hours after we coat it in shoes, getting ready to put the next coat on, and you're not seeing foot marks and everything like that. But for the homeowners, definitely saying, 3 to 4 hours for sock feet. For Mega One, after 72 hours is when we say that they can move in furniture. And obviously we want them lifting it and not dragging across the finish because it's still trying to cure. And then you definitely don't want to cover it with rugs or try and clean it before it's cure. So waiting that 5 days before they put down the rugs, and waiting, 5 days before they start to clean it with any kind of, wet cleaner is really going to avoid a lot of issues. When I was on the phones talking to homeowners in Bona, I would just be like, you know what? Your contractor just spent all of that time trying to give you the most beautiful furniture that you could possibly look at. Why not wait, a couple weeks to look at it without putting those rugs back down? And they all seem to kind of understand that, hey, it's okay to have it bare for a little bit before I throw the rugs back down.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's always that tension, because then you got the homeowner on the phone who's like, I just need to get back on it right away.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, so let's talk a little bit about Traffic HD. So, what, I know you mentioned some of this as well, but what problems are you trying to solve for the customer by upgrading Traffic to Traffic HD?
So that lower VOC, because, that's obviously, we do have those customers that are very VOC conscious. So if you can provide them a finish, especially going from like an oil finish to where, they're out of the house, they're, having to go to, a hotel for multiple days while you're refinishing the floor, to, we have customers, and obviously this is very much a customer dependent thing. It's not everybody's going to be okay with this, but, some homeowners will just literally stay down in the basement while you're finishing on the main floor, because you're coating with such a low VOC product. It's not actually like affecting them. It's not hard to breathe. They're not coughing. And so they feel comfortable staying in the home, which then allows you to, sell yourself on, hey, you're not going to have to go, be out of your house. You're not going to have to go rent a hotel room and have additional costs on top of me refinishing your floors.
Okay. Nice.
So,
yeah, that's another big push that homeowners give to contractors, that is the same thing. How long before I can get back in my house? So, all right. And so definitely low VOC. And in terms of the time to get back on it, you already mentioned that's 3 days to full cure.
3 days to full cure. So that means after 24 hours, it's 85% cure. Homeowners can move stuff back in on the second day. And once again, it's the lifting and not dragging. And then on the third day, it's fully cure, which just means less times of customers complaining about how soon can they get back on their floor. They can clean it a little bit faster, because obviously after moving in all their stuff, the first thing they want to do is clean that brand new floor. And then they can also get their rugs down faster as well.
Gotcha. What for Traffic HD, any differences in terms of what you put that over? Or are you still with the one seal coat, one coat of poly, whether single or dual component, and then another coat on top?
Yep, still always will always recommend 2 coats of finish as a minimum. A third coat is just an extra layer of protection, just if the homeowners are asking for it, or it's an upsell that you're trying to, give them a very durable floor, and they're looking at something where they're not wanting to recoat for multiple years. Throwing on that extra coat of finish up front, it saves them and you from having to come back that much sooner.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I think you said somewhere in there, ease of coatability over just normal Traffic.
Yeah, it was meant to level and flow better. It was meant to just kind of lay out a little bit easier.
Yep.
So it's a completely different platform than what Traffic was. So.
Okay. How, I guess this would apply to both finishes, but are there specific ways that you recommend a guy put it down, like roller versus T-bar versus brush? Because I know, again, with the wide range of people that are going to see this, some people are going to be on their hands and knees with the Swedish brush, and some people are going to be rolling.
It blows my mind, because I've seen guys do a little bit of everything with it, which is always fantastic. And I love getting on the floors and watching guys get to do something that I've never seen, where, hey, they'll coat an entire floor with a cut-in pad or with a Swedish brush. They're actually, they're brooming in it. And so it's very cool. But no, I mean, there's no necessarily like preferred way when it comes to either one of those products. Obviously T-bar, most guys are familiar with it. You're going to get a little bit of a higher coverage rate. And that's definitely an important thing to follow when it comes to our stuff, is that, when it comes to coverage rate, Traffic and Traffic HD are always going to be a little bit lower than what guys are normally used to. That's just so that they can put on those 2 coats and get the full mill thickness that we're looking for from a 3-coat system.
Gotcha. Okay, so just to be clear with that, you're saying with Traffic and Traffic HD, they're going to go on a little bit thicker?
They're supposed to go on a little bit thicker. So
Yep.
traditional products are somewhere around 500 to 600 square feet per gallon, where our Traffic HD and Traffic are going to be 350 to 400. You're going to hit that 400 with a T-bar, and 350 is going to be closer to that when you're rolling. And obviously that's an average over the time.
Sure.
You'll
Yep.
put it down the first time and it might be 350, and then you put it down the second coat and it's 400, 425. So I mean, as long as you're within that average between the 2 coats or 3 coats, whatever you do, that's definitely where we want it to be.
Gotcha. So are there certain surfaces that you would recommend not coating over, or types of finishes that you'd recommend not coating over? I know somebody is probably going to look at a product like Traffic HD and they're going to say, hey, this is an isocyanate, it's sticky, I can screen and recoat. And most screen and recoats are probably going to work out just fine. But are there specific products like, hard wax oils are big now and guys want to go into a hard wax oil floor and maybe buff that and coat it, or traditional wax? Any problematic things you tell a guy to look out for in terms of coating with that, or doing a buff and coat with that product?
I mean, outside of the traditional ones like acrylic polishes and like waxes, you're not going to have any issues. If it's a varnish that was put down 30 years ago, anything that's, as long as it's fully cured out, it can be coated over. I mean, even if somebody put down poly and then all of a sudden was like, you know what, I actually want a waterborne finish on top of this, if that oil is fully cured, come in quickly, scuff it up, and then you can coat Traffic HD over top of it. Now, when talking about like the hard wax oils and stuff like that, we actually have a hard wax oil that allows you to coat right over top of it. Other ones, it's definitely going to be something that we're going to say we want you to test the section just to make sure that whatever process you're going to do, it's going to work. It may work with it, it may not, and you won't know until you actually try it. Outside of our oil that we actually have, where we test and make sure that because they're both hardened with isocyanate, they actually bond together.
Gotcha. So if a guy's wanting to go down the route of penetrating oil with the option of a poly on top, then he's going to want to look at craft oil.
He would definitely want to look at craft oil. Absolutely.
Okay. Great. So another question I'd like to ask, just real quick, with either of these products. So, knowing that you guys are a big company, you put your name behind good products. What if a contractor were to screw this up? Because people find ways, including myself, to mess up just about anything. How would somebody mess either of these products up? Like, what are the most common pitfalls a guy would get into with both Mega One and Traffic?
Honestly, Mega One, I mean, with a single component, there's not really a whole lot of, outside of not shaking it. Kind of like if it's one of the satin or extra matte, if you don't shake it, obviously that can lead to being, a kind of a gradient of sheen as you go across, because all of the flattening agents are sitting on the bottom. So as you get to the bottom of the bottle, that's going to be something that you can do. Honestly,
just real quick, if that happens to a guy, I mean, the solution to that is screen and recoat.
Screen and recoat, yeah, because I mean, a large portion of what we see in a finish is going to be that top coat.
Right.
And so they would want to hit the area, braid it, basically get it down, and then coat over top of it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
And then Traffic HD, just being a 2-component, we'll either have calls of like somebody forgot to put in the hardener, and so they just coated the floor. They thought that somebody, I thought person A was going to do it, and so I just started coating, and then I realized we have this whole extra bottle of hardener, and at that point it's just let it fully dry out and then go and screen and recoat it. So it's definitely salvageable. It's not a full resand or anything like that. And then, or putting in the hardener and then walking away and forgetting to shake it, kind of a thing. That can always cause kind of issues just because you have a large concentration of hardener. But outside of that, I mean, they're pretty user-friendly.
Okay, awesome. Well, user friendliness is good. I mean, when guys get to the last part of the floor, all the work that's gone into the floor
Right.
up until that point. They don't want to throw in the dumpster and start all over again. So
correct, yeah.
Finish is one of those things that's a little bit harder to switch if you're a contractor, because you definitely want that final product to highlight all the work you've done up until that point. So two quick questions. One, do you have to worry about tannin pull with either one of these? Like if you put it directly down on a white oak, is that a worry at all?
Yeah, I mean, most finishes are going to react with some kind of tannin, which is why we always recommend just a sealer in general, whether it's a stain as the sealer or a sealer to go on top of it. The other portion of that is it kind of keeps the finish out of the wood, which can lead to other problems like panelization and kind of gluing boards together. So by having a sealer underneath that finish, you kind of avoid a lot of issues.
Gotcha. And then the second question, the second question that I had, this is a little bit more of a subjective one, is how would a guy know when to go with a single component versus a two component, like, or have a single component as your first coat and a two component on top of that? I mean, I know there are, 300 million different houses, and so probably 300 million different answers. Right. But in a general guideline, what would you tell a guy in terms of, hey, you could just go with Mega One on this project, or you might want to bump up to a Traffic HD for this other project?
I mean, anytime that you come into a house and you see dog scratches in the floor, or you see damaged finish because they've spilled stuff in their kitchen and they're just, not maintaining, that would be something where I would kind of recommend and go, okay, looking at this floor, looks like you need a very high durability finish. So I'm going to look at upgrading you to Traffic HD. I can give you prices for, just Mega One or Mega One Split with Traffic HD, and kind of have different tiers for those individual customers. But I mean, I have plenty of customers who will run a system that is just based off of Mega One. That is their main thing, and they will only upgrade if the customer asks for it, or if they're looking to upsell because the customer's a little bit concerned about high traffic areas, or they, like I said, come in and walk in and see the previous finishes torn up.
Gotcha. So look for previous damage if it's a already finished floor. If not, you're looking for factors like dogs, kids, dirt getting trapped in the house, potentially, things like that.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Either that, or if they have VOC concerns, obviously you'd want to upgrade them to something a little more Green Guard certified gold. So,
yeah, awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to highlight with either one of those?
Feel free to reach out to your territory managers if you have questions about those. You can call our phone number, which is 1-800-872-5515. That's the tech line. Those guys, speaking from personal experience, we spend a lot of days answering questions and hopefully trying to save contractors from having issues. But it's always good to ask the questions beforehand.
Absolutely. Don't want to find out afterwards.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Brad, appreciate you joining us on
Pro Shop
Talks. Appreciate all the info that you've given us. So,
yep. Hope you guys have a wonderful day.
You too. Talk to you later.
Yep. Bye.